Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Riya Gandhi and today's video is episode 2 of the lecture series on UGC NET English exam. In today's video, we are going to cover 3 of the most important and frequently asked romantic poets of English literature. We'll begin this video with a quick and a detailed discussion of what is Romantic age, what shaped its literature, followed by a discussion on these 3 important poets. Stay tuned till the end of this video because we will also be covering PYQs related to these poets. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any videos that I will be uploading on UGC NET English exam in the future. First, let us understand what is Romantic age. The time period which is characterized as Romantic age in English literature is specifically from 1798 to 1837. But even before this time period, you see a lot of ideas that are characteristic of the Romantic literature had already started springing before this particular time period. For example, you talk about French Revolution that happened in 1789. The ideas like liberty, equality, freedom, all of this that sparked from the French Revolution also continued down into the Romantic literature. Not only that, but this particular age was also marked by increased mechanization, increased industrialization that peaked in the Victorian literature. Now, when you're talking about the mechanization, despite this mechanization, there was increase in unemployment, increase in poverty. A lot of people were dealing with financial struggles, and that reached its peak in 1819 in the form of economic depression. Now, to protest this sort of economic depression and provoke the government to take certain steps, a lot of people, something around 50,000 people, gathered in St. Peter's Field, Manchester. But then the protest reached to such an extent that they basically wanted to hear the radical Hunt. But then it reached to such an extent that hundreds of them were injured because of the police attacks and 11 were dead, which is written down in the history of English literature as the Peterloo Massacre. Now, this was in brief what constituted the Romantic age. All of this together collectively shaped Romantic literature. And that's why the central focus of Romantic literature is instinct and emotion, the emphasis on nature. People wanted to focus upon the human relationship with nature. That were the earlier Romantics. But then came from the 1820s, the 1800s, that section of the Romantic writers and Romantics that focused more upon the supernatural. If one section focused upon the natural, the second focused upon the supernatural. That is why you see in Romantic poetry, there are 2 generations of Romantic poets. The first generation or the earlier generation of Romantic poets basically focused upon building humans' relationship with nature. They focused upon more positive feelings like love, innocence, purity. And these first generation of Romantic poets are William Blake, William Wordsworth, and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and Robert Southey. On the other hand, you had the second generation of Romantic poets. They largely focused upon the human psyche. They were the later or the darker Romantic poets because they focused more upon the visions, dreams, superstitions, fears, hallucinations. These basically included Lord Byron, Percy B. Shelley, and John Keats. Now that you have a basic understanding of who these 2 generations of Romantic poets are, what constituted in the Romantic Age and what shaped its literature, let's understand the first most important and frequently asked Romantic poet in UGC NET English literature. He is William Blake. William Blake is considered to be the earliest and the most original Romantic poets. Why? Because even before William Wordsworth published his lyrical ballads along with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, William Blake was already talking about the importance of nature in the human's life. In fact, that while he was growing up, he was considered to be mad. Why? Because he claimed to have visions. What kind of visions? When he was just 4, he claims that he saw God when he put his head to the window. Not only that, but he also claimed that when his brother Robert Blake was dying, he saw his brother's spirits rise up, clapping his hands for joy. All of these visions motivated him to be an artist, to be an engraver. Yes, before William Blake was famous as a poet, he was already pretty well established as an engraver. He illustrated famous works of Mary Wollstonecraft and also Dante's Divine Comedy. He never published his poetry in an ordinary manner. He published it using a certain kind of technology that he claimed was revealed to him by his brother Robert Blake in a vision. He published it using that particular technology, etched it along with his devoted wife Catherine Blake. One of his most important works is the Songs of Innocence that was initially published in 1789. It is a collection of 23 poems that primarily emphasizes upon the themes of innocence and purity. Some of the famous poems are The Chimney Sweeper, The Lamb, and more. And then in 1794, he combined Songs of Experience with Songs of Innocence. Songs of Experience is basically a collection of 26 poems. They focus upon the corruption of innocence during adulthood by the authority figures because of some fear, poverty, etc. The poems in the Songs of Experience, they act as the counterparts to the poems of Songs of Innocence. For example, the counterpart of the lamb is the tiger in Songs of Experience. Now, other important works of William Blake are the Book of Thel, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. All of these are prophetic works. Similar to it is Jerusalem, which is considered to be the longest and greatest work of William Blake. It is even termed to be a visionary theatre. Moving on to the next most important and frequently asked Romantic poet, we have William Wordsworth. We all know that William Wordsworth is the greatest nature poet. He is also called as a lake poet because he was born in the Lake District. But before he became this greatest nature poet that we know him to be today, he had to pass through this dark period in his life from 1792 to 1795 when he was forced to return to England after France, and he was completely lost in his life. He was penniless. He was hostile to the situation in England, which was opposing the wars in France. At the same time, the kind of poverty, the misery that people were subjected to in England sort of haunted him. And that is why these periods, that is from 1792 to 95, is called as the dark period in his life. But then in 1797, he started to live with Dorothy, his beloved sister, at Alfoxden House. And that's when he became friends with Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And we all know that their friendship led to one of the most seminal texts in Romantic literature, something that began Romantic literature, and that is the Lyrical Ballads. It was published in 1798 by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge together. In 1800, that is 2 years after that, you have the preface to the Lyrical Ballads that was published by William Wordsworth. This collection of poems, it begins with Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner and ends with Wordsworth's Tintern Abbey. Now, what was about Lyrical Ballads that made it so popular? First of all, William Wordsworth's aim was to choose incidents and situations from common life and to relate or describe them. That is basically the gist of the preface, which basically means that he wanted to focus upon the ordinary lives of men and women. And to talk about that, he wanted to focus upon their language, the colloquial language, the rustic language. And he based that there is no difference between the language of poetry and the language of common people. That is why he did not focus much upon the meter. If there is any accidental rhymes, then that is that. But he did not force meter into his poetry. He focused more upon that rustic countryside, and that's what he wanted to talk about. Other works of William Wordsworth are The Prelude or Growth of a Poet's Mind, an autobiographical poem. Now, friends, please remember that you should go through the prelude or at least understand the detailed analysis of the prelude, because frequent questions have been asked in UGC NET English exam related to the prelude. So first of all, what is a prelude? First of all, it was published posthumously in 1850, and it was so vast that prelude is just the introduction to his major work, The Recluse. He wanted The Recluse to be a 3-part epic, and he completed the prelude. The second part, The Excursion, and what remains are basically the bits and fragments of it. He started working on it in 1798 itself and was absorbed in it for 40 years. But then again, he was not able to complete it. His occasional sonnets that we all know are Composed upon the Westminster Bridge in 1802, London 1802, which was a sonnet on Milton. The next important romantic poet who is also frequently asked in UGC NET English exam is John Keats. He belonged to the second generation of romantic poets, the darker generation of romantic poets. He was the youngest of the trio, and he was also the first to die. He had a very short literary career, and even that he practiced surgery in London till 1817. So he just had a literary career of 5 years. His first poem was on first looking into Chapman's Homer. He died young because he was diagnosed with tuberculosis. And on his tomb, and this is one of the most interesting facts that I find about John Keats, and that is, on this tomb, in the inscription that was made by himself, it was written, "Here lies one whose name was writ in water." So poetic. One of his most important works is Endymion, that was published in 1818. It was his first long poem, and it was divided into 4 1,000-line sections depicting 4 stages of life. Now, what are these 4 stages of life? They are nature, art, friendship, and love. It is based on a Greek legend talking about the love of moon goddess Cynthia or Artemis for Endymion, a mortal shepherd. This work was fiercely attacked by the Quarterly Review. His next important work is The Eve of St. Agnes, that was published in 1820. It was written after his first meeting with Fanny Brown, basically his first love, his first crush, and it is written in Spenserian stanzas. Other important works of John Keats basically include his narrative poems like Lamia, Isabella, Hyperion, his most famous odes like Ode to a Grecian Urn and Ode to a Nightingale. Friends, in one of these poems, he has famously stated that beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all you know on earth and all you need to know. Write down in the comment section that in which ode has he mentioned this statement. Apart from these odes, he has also written his letters to his brother and sister that now hold a lot of literary significance, because it is in one of these letters that he has talked about the concept of negative capability. Now that you have a basic understanding of who these three important romantic poets are and their works, let's understand why they are important from UGC NET point of view. A lot of questions are frequently asked related to these poets in UGC NET English exam. Questions like William Blake's famous poems such as London, The Sick Rose and The Tiger appear in. So if you look at the titles of these poems, you will realize that they focus a lot more upon authority figures like the tiger. And we discussed this in this video that the tiger is the counterpart of the innocent lamb. That's why all of these poems, they occur in B, songs of experience. Moving on to the next question, the phrase dark satanic mills has become the most famous description of the force at the center of the Industrial Revolution. The phrase was used by? The answer is William Blake. Which poem of William Blake has this particular phrase, that is the dark satanic mills? And you're going to write that down in the comment section below. Moving on to the next question, the final version of the prelude appeared in. So first of all, we know that the prelude is written by William Wordsworth as an introduction to the Recluse. He was absorbed in it for 40 years, had started to write it in 1798 itself, and it was published posthumously in 1850. Next question, which version of the Lyrical Ballads was the first one to have the preface by Wordsworth? We also discussed this in this video. In 1798, William Wordsworth and Coleridge published the Lyrical Ballads, and just 2 years after that, in 1800, William Wordsworth published the preface to Lyrical Ballads. So the answer is B, 1800. Moving on to the next question. It is, a thing of beauty is a joy forever occurs in. Now, if you look at the options below, we know that it is related to John Keats. And the answer is Endymion. A thing of beauty is a joy forever occurs in Endymion, that was published by John Keats in 1818. The last question for today is, which of the following poem by Keats uses the Spenserian stanza? Guys, we discussed this in this video itself. So I'm not going to tell you the answer for this. You're going to tell me, type it out in the comment section below, that which of the following poems by Keats uses the Spenserian stanza? These were three of the most important and frequently asked romantic poets in English literature that you should understand in detail before you appear for your UGC NET English exam. Apart from these three important writers, there are also other important romantic poets like Lord Byron, Percy B. Shelley. You also have Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who are frequently asked in UGC NET English exam. Now, if you want to understand their works in detail and master romantic age for your exam, don't worry, I've got you covered. I am taking live UGC NET English exam preparation classes in which I'm sharing essential tips and strategies that help me crack UGC NET English exam in just first attempt. Not only that, but I'm also covering every important author, writer, poet, dramatist related to the history of British English literature and Indian English literature in a very detailed and simplified manner. Not only that, but I'm also breaking down every complex concept and topic related to literary criticism, which will provide you the confidence to ace UGC NET English exam. The best part about these courses is that since these are live one-on-one coaching classes, I can provide you the personalized guidance tailored to your needs and requirements, trying to fill the possible gaps in your UGC NET preparation journey. If you want to know more about the courses I offer, the sessions I take, and the courses I provide, feel free to check out my TopMate page. It's topmate.io/Riya Gandhi. I've shared the link in the description box below, so don't forget to check it out. That's it for today's video, folks. If you found this video on the three most important romantic poets informative and helpful, please like it and share it with other UGC NET English aspirants. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any videos related to the lecture series on UGC NET English exam that I will be uploading in the future. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you in the next one.